Hi guys, welcome back to TOEFL with Juva. I scored 30 in TOEFL writing and today I'm going to show you how you can write an essay for an agree-disagree question for task 2 in TOEFL writing. We are going to write this essay together, step by step. By the way, if you want to get more tips for the TOEFL and download templates, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss the next video. Let's get started. What you can see here is the prompt. This is the question you need to answer in your independent essay. Let's have a look at the prompt. What does it say? The prompt says, physical education should be mandatory at universities. Do you agree or disagree? So as you can see here, this is an agree-disagree question. The question asks you whether you agree or disagree with something. Before you start writing your essay, you should first take a few notes. This is exactly what we are going to do now. But first, I have to decide whether I agree or disagree with this statement. Let's imagine that I agree. I think it's a good idea if physical education is mandatory at universities. What you first need to do is you need to find 2 reasons and 2 examples to support your statement, and you should write down notes regarding these reasons and examples. So I will now start with my first reason. My first reason will be that exercising at university improves the academic performance of students, because I think if students study all the time, at some point they cannot concentrate anymore, and exercising in between sessions of studying can enhance their concentration, and in the end this can improve their grades. So I'm going to write down just that. I'm just writing down improves academic performance. The next thing I'm going to write down is my first example. You should always provide an example to support your reason, because this strengthens your reason. If you don't know how to write a body paragraph for the independent essay, have a look at my video about that. In this video, I explain exactly how you should structure your body paragraphs. You can find the link in the description below. Now, my first example will be that I started swimming at university. I hadn't done that before, and when I started swimming, I realized that I was able to study more efficiently, and in the end, my grades even improved. So I'm going to write down just that. I'm going to write down swimming and then studied more efficiently. And what? My grades improved. Good, this is totally sufficient. Now I'm going on with my second reason. My second reason will be that exercising allows students to gain useful skills that they can need for the future careers. So I'm just going to write down useful skills. That's totally sufficient. And my second example that supports this reason will be that I started to play basketball at university. Yeah, I started to play basketball, and I realized that when playing basketball, you need communication skills in order to play well, because you have to play in a team. So you need to develop communication skills. And I realized that I could use these skills in other areas of my life, for example, in seminars at university, and these skills were very useful. So I'm going to talk about that. So now we're done with our notes. Let's start writing our essay. I'm going to start writing the introduction. Now, perhaps you remember that from my video about how to write an introduction for the independent essay. You first need to write a hook. A hook is a sentence that introduces the topic of the essay and that makes it sound interesting. And you can write a hook simply by rephrasing the information given in the prompt. And as you can see, we don't have much information here. So it just says physical education should be mandatory at universities. So it's totally okay if you provide a bit of extra information, because the independent essay is pretty much freestyle. So I'm going to write, due to the benefits associated with exercising, some believe that universities should require students to take physical education classes. Good. As you can see here, I provided a bit of extra information. I said due to the benefits associated with exercising, and then I just rephrased the information given in the prompt. I said some believe that universities should require students to take physical education classes. Now I go on with my thesis. This is the second sentence of your introduction. You need to talk about your opinion. The reader must know what your opinion is. And I said, I agree with this statement. So I'm going to write, I totally agree that gym classes should be obligatory at universities. Good, I forgot an M here. As you can see, guys, I disabled the autocorrection. This is exactly the situation that you will encounter in the TOEFL, so always check your text for typos. So as you can see here, I wrote, I totally agree. This shows ETS that I understood what this question is about. It's an agree-disagree question, okay? And that's why I say I agree. If you don't agree, you say I disagree. Perhaps you remember that in one of my videos I talked about a preference question essay. And when I wrote the thesis for the preference question essay, I wrote I prefer, because this was about a preference question, but this is an agree-disagree question. So you should either write I agree or I disagree to show the examiner that you understood, okay, this is an agree-disagree question. As you can see here, I said totally. If you totally agree with something, you can definitely use such a word because this simply strengthens your opinion. Now I go on. I have to write a transition. You told the reader what your opinion is, and now you have to tell the reader, okay, look, I'm going to provide reasons to support my thesis. So I'm going to write, I feel this way for 2 reasons, which I will examine in this essay. So the reader knows exactly, okay, in the following, I'm going to talk about 2 reasons that support my opinion. So the reader knows exactly where he is in your essay. Good, this was our introduction. Just writing this down here for you guys, introduction. Let's go on with the first body paragraph. I'm going to start my first body paragraph with first of all. This is a nice transition, and by using this transition here, I show the examiner, okay, look, this is my first reason. So I'm writing first of all, and now I'm going to talk about my first reason. So I'm going to write exercising regularly helps students improve their academic performance. Good, now I talked about my first reason. I say, okay, my first reason is that exercising helps students improve their academic performance. What you should not do now is immediately starting with your example. Before you write about your example, you must elaborate on your reason. This means that you must explain your reason. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to write, since many students have to cope with an enormous workload. Yeah, we all know that, right? during the semester, they are prone to suffer from stress and anxiety. And now I want to tell the reader, look, exercising regularly is the solution to this problem. So I'm going to write evidently, exercising in between sessions of studying can help students focus on something different than just their subject and relax. Consequently, now I'm going to talk about what this means. What is the consequence of exercising regularly? Consequently, when they continue studying after having worked out, they can concentrate better on the topic at hand. So I'm telling the reader, look, if students exercise regularly, they can concentrate better afterwards, and that's why exercising should be obligatory at universities. So I'm going to add just one sentence here. I'm going to state, thus, exercising allows students to study more efficiently, which enables them to get better grades. That's why exercising enhances the academic performance of students. Let's quickly have a look at this paragraph. What I've done here is I talked about my first reason and then I provided an explanation. I explain to the reader what my first reason is about so that he can understand it. I give him the opportunity to understand my reason better. And as you can see here, I used a lot of transitions here. For example, I used first of all. I talked about that in the beginning. This is a nice way of starting your paragraph and of showing the reader that you were going to talk about your first reason now. Then I used evidently. This is the same as obviously, okay? Then I used consequently because I wanted to talk about the consequence, and this transition signals to the reader that I'm talking about a consequence now. And then I also used thus. Thus means the same as consequently, but I didn't want to use consequently again because I want to show ETS that I know a lot of vocabulary and that I know synonyms for consequently, and that's why I use thus instead of consequently. So guys, when you're using transitions, try to use a lot of different transitions. Try to find synonyms because this improves your TOEFL writing score, because this shows that you know a lot of vocabulary. So in the following, I want to strengthen my reason. I want to talk about my first example. And if you remember that, my first example here was about swimming. I said I started swimming at university, and that's why I was able to study more efficiently and my grades improved. So I'm going to talk about that now. Before I start talking about my example, I first have to tell the reader that I'm going to talk about my example now, because he doesn't know. So I'm going to write, this is best demonstrated by my personal experience. So the reader knows, okay, now she is going to talk about her personal experience. I'm going to write, when I started studying at university, I did not do any exercise because of the huge workload that required me to study for hours. As a result, so here I'm going to talk about a consequence. As a result, I felt overwhelmed and stressed out. Stressed out. So here you can see I'm exactly mirroring what I was talking before in my reason. In my first reason, I talked about students having to cope with a huge workload. and that this can lead to stress. And now I'm talking about my workload at university, and that I felt stressed out because it was so much work and I didn't do any exercise. And now I'm going to talk about that exercising was the solution to this problem. So I'm writing, okay, eventually I started swimming every second day, which had a huge impact on my performance. Suddenly, I felt more confident. I focused better on tasks, and I managed to get them done more quickly than before. Hence, my grades improved considerably. So I talked about that I had a lot of work to do, I felt stressed out, and then I started swimming. And this made my grades improve and I was able to study more efficiently. Now I just want to do one more thing, guys. I want to write one more sentence. I want to write, I am sure that if I had not started exercising regularly, I would not have been able to study so efficiently. What I've done here, guys, is I used an if clause, and if clauses are amazing and you should absolutely use them, because if clauses are not so easy to write. And if you use an if clause in your independent essay in the TOEFL, you show ETS that you know more complex English grammar, that you can handle more complex English grammar, and this is what will get you a high TOEFL writing score. So definitely, guys, practice if clauses before so that you can use them with confidence in your essay. So this here is my first example. And let's have a look at that paragraph. What did I do here? I used a lot of transitions. You can see this here. I said, as a result. So here I talk about the consequence. I already did that before. You can see here there was this word consequently and there was thus. And now I use as a result because I want to use a different transition and not the one I used before. And then I also used hence here, which again talks about a consequence. So you can see there are a lot of different transitions you can use when you want to talk about a consequence. What I also did is I signaled to the reader, look, I'm going to talk about my personal experience here. So this is very important because this gives your essay structure, as well as, first of all, in the beginning, this also gives your essay structure because it shows that you're going to talk about your first reason now. So this is our first paragraph. Now let's go on with the second paragraph. I will start that one with second. Second is really a nice transition you can use when you talk about your second reason. And then I go on and I talk about my second reason. And this reason was that exercising can provide students with useful skills that they can need in the future. So I'm going to write physical exercise provides students with skills that can prove useful in their future careers. Good. This sentence, oh, there is a typo here. We should correct that. This sentence shows the reader what your second reason is, and now don't start immediately with your example. First, elaborate on your reason. Explain your reason to the reader. You should see this explanation as an opportunity to show ETS that you can write a good essay, that you can elaborate on something. Now, I'm going to write in particular those types of exercise that require students to work in a team, promote their skills in communication, and organization. Good. What I'm doing here is I tell the reader, look, students can acquire valuable skills when exercising. And I go on, I say, obviously, such skills are indispensable when one has to work in a team at university or in a later job. So that's why having these skills is great. And now I want to talk about my second example. I'm going to write, for instance, so this shows the reader that I'm going to talk about an example now. I use for instance, let me just circle this. For instance, I played basketball at university. And now I'm going to talk about which skills I acquired when playing basketball. So I'm going to write, as basketball requires all team members to work closely together, we all had to learn how to communicate with each other. In the beginning, this was a huge challenge for all of us. However, after a while, I realized that I was able to understand subtle signs of others and to react appropriately. I'm telling the reader, look, I played basketball at university and I acquired valuable skills, communication skills. And I go on and say, additionally, the communication skills I had acquired came in very handy when doing group work in seminars. In fact, now I'm talking about why these skills were useful when doing group work in seminars. I'm saying I was able to communicate more effectively with my team members. Further, I was not only more empathetic towards them, but I was also able to organize tasks more efficiently. What did I do here? I told the reader, look, I played basketball at university and I acquired valuable skills, namely communication skills. And just see, I forgot a dot here. Let's have a closer look at this paragraph. I used however, which is a nice transition. I used additionally. I used in fact and further. Those are all nice transitions that you can use and that will get you a lot of points in TOEFL writing. For example, I also used in particular here and obviously. This was our second reason number 2, and the corresponding explanation. I hope you can read this, guys. And here I talked about my second example. Good. I'm just going to add one more sentence. I want to use an if clause here, okay? I'm going to write, certainly, if I had not played basketball at university, I would not have developed these skills. So I show ETS, look, I can write an amazing if clause. I know how to do that. You see here I say, if I had not played, I would not have developed these skills. So it's always nice using these if clauses, just as I've done here. Good. We have 2 if clauses. We have a lot of transitions in this essay. This seems good. Now, let's go on with our conclusion. I'm going to start the conclusion with in conclusion. This is a really easy and nice expression you can use to show the reader that you're going to talk about your conclusion now. Now, in your conclusion, you should do 2 things. First, you should restate your thesis, and second, you should restate your reasons. And you always have to rephrase everything, okay? Do not use the exact same words that you used before, because this will not get you points. If you want a high score in the independent task in TOEFL writing, you must rephrase everything. I'm going to write in conclusion, and now I'm rephrasing my thesis, okay? I'm rephrasing the thesis that I used here. I said I totally agree that gym classes should be obligatory at universities, and now I'm going to write just that in different words. I say I'm of the opinion that students should be required to exercise at university. And then I go on and I talk about my 2 reasons. I say this is because physical exercise enhances the academic performance of students, and because it allows them to develop necessary skills for their future. So this is covered here. Let's do it like that. What did I do? I talked about my thesis again. I used different words. And then I talked about my 2 reasons. This enhances the academic performance refers to my first reason. I talked about that here. And this refers to my second reason. I talked about that here. So this, guys, is our conclusion. We are done. This is our essay for the independent task in TOEFL writing for an agree-disagree question. This essay has 452 words. I'd recommend writing at least about 380 words in your independent essay. Try to write a bit more with 452 words. We are definitely on the safe side. That's it. This is how you write an essay for the independent task in TOEFL writing if you get an agree-disagree question. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And if you want to get more tips for the TOEFL and download templates, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss the next video. I'd love to see you here next time. Bye bye!